start a speech with an apology and a joke. I'm going to start instead with an introduction, just a couple of additional comments about my background. I've been with Microsoft for about 8.5 years. I was hired there in late 1999 to run the Microsoft Security Response Center, the organization that you report externally found vulnerabilities to. And when I was hired there in 1999, I was 28 years old. and the apology is that an obvious approach to measuring security. If it is, I'm your feedback. Something that we found useful. People sort of say, yeah, that's a big deal. On the other hand, I've seen it written anywhere. My failures to write a paper. This will get out to you. It's of interest. Hope that's reduction. Little years. I lived in the area for about 3 years, during which I for lawyer of in the room, working on mathematical models of secure systems. Also, implemented incorporated built one system that was so secure that he wanted, and made the decision to cancel the. As Chris, Mike, and I wrote the SDL, and at the current sales, I'll remember the chance they gave 2020. But I encourage you to buy a copy and help move that in. So what I do, some background on Microsoft, started doing things more seriously about security, introduction, SDL, about which Steve talk would be, and into in particular work, and trying to develop some of the things. The two metrics that came out of our initial efforts, what we do and experience observation, and hope to out for the crawl. Some of you may know some of this history. Microsoft did its Security Response Center just 10 years ago. And so the first thing we did was to sort of take sorts of vulnerabilities in our products to get ourselves to respond. And we, I think we were reasonable at when I came in '99, but we do a much better job today. But in 2000, had sort of in session the red worm, the NIMDA worm, and talked about extensively in yesterday and notes yesterday, and in P vulnerability in which P was a vulnerability that certainly allow the XP systems in the internet into one DDoS vector and might not have exploitable to code. Reason I differ from that. The key about that one, nobody did DDoS or code to our knowledge, but it was sort of a flaming public visible vulnerability, our new product, where in fact to some level of training, try to tools and make the system secure than its predecessors. So the fact that we sort of had kind of out that soon after the had shipped was not for the happy. Time that and a number of looking for levels in the security problem and needed to do it. And those things culminated in 2002 with Bill Gates through the everybody in the more important than you might, because people seriously, and it gave them the to make really big business decisions like development of Server 2003, being 8,500 for security, and to go forward try to make the more secure with not a lot more guidance in those days than that. I'm sure I remember Chris was right at stake. Yeah, consultant time helping the S6 group do things and its product. A little more about 6. So we security push what we call a stand down everybody and fix code. We also toward the end of the product did some that we would now call security review, basically a batch, taking who weren't product team and doing to see, okay, the job to do is the product fit, and really that in some to the product, the result of that review. And then at 2003 found that all right, we also did stages of a security capability to find abilities in our product and tools to eliminate them. As two rolled around, we started to plot. We were the security and finally review model to other products, basically to any we thought was enough, and also to do more about the education of engineering staff across the company. In 2003, sort of executive management said, this stuff is, but it's still security is still a challenge to get there on a synchronized basis, sort of ad based on the team, the effort that you guys assembled. On that basis, called the security development life, a formalization of what we started out as a presentation of what we took it to the lead team of the company, got it blessed mandate for essentially that meaningful risk, started to operational. 5 and 6, you can read the slides with a lot of ads, talk about things the SDA in the ad process in detail, a couple of slides. So I read that to you, but it flavor that it's doing is doing update the process, also trying to go external to the extent about the that category, book that category. A year ago, we had a shop on for computer manufacturers to brief them things that we secure develop, help encourage to apply those practices to the that they should, and continuing to look for these for with the S for the software industry. Now, slide. I didn't copy Matt Moynihan's talk yesterday, but this sort of market wide graphic on the L. And what we've done is take the standard security life cycle of the software development process for my products, development, test, beta, and release, overlay of specific requirements on the process shown on the orange. The key there, I'm going to go into a little more what's SDL on the slide. The key point here, this sort of gets to the way we do metrics, is that it isn't like my system. When I was doing system, the model was we were going to verify the customer is going to go. There might be enhancements would never be abilities. Today, we believe there are people who do too. Software like cryptography. You security how best science technology and it's for somebody finds your attack and model the threat. I won't say that sort of term. Your model changes, and you go change your technology and up the way you build systems. So a lot of SDL is learning. When the product we integrate what the security center does, vulnerability is to fix of that vulnerability product where reported. We'll also use that to introduce new tools, new tech, new processes to the with the next the process. In fact, we're on this month cycle SDL, new requirements, adding new tools, new adding new verification, whatever we in defenses to make this better. A little more specifics of the model are on this slide. The team that some of the other from my career in is historic reasons the Secure Web Initiative. It's a security for the part of the company. So we start out with a product, work with them as they build a product. They meet the requirements, things like threat modeling during this. There's a session modeling here earlier today. As in case, the most challenging things we have, figuring out a threat model that engineers who aren't security experts have done. If you looked at, I come to the modeling chapter in our book. This isn't a plan, it's just the best way to do it. And to stacks on the SQL block that came the last probably couple of months. Development, we do a lot of tools. We like automated tools as become scalable and they're reliable. We use static analysis. We use configuration, use specific or training tools to look for specific classes of software configuration or system configuration. We make that people build with mitigation technologies, SLR, to execute action, use compilers so that they have overrun built in, integer overflow plugins, the scan analysis tool. So certainly being tools, and then the tools, it turns out that as I know, effective at finding vulnerability. Security, we don't so much more. I've come around that a security push is you do if you've a pre-installed product. It's probably vulnerable over lifetime. You don't do like that push, vulnerability is going to stay. A process ongoing will keep introducing, and people report vulnerabilities against you. You'll work the old ones, but it's a long time. Security push is important to get or get in, and actually some of the vulnerability out of a security review. Still do two questions. If the product has the requirement, right, tools, configuration, etc., is it secure to ship? Even if there's you run all there's something issue come up, yes, you're going to tomorrow and be vulnerable reported against you today. I ask you to and consider there isn't a better way. So that's sort of the clause in the and then response once you ship, we perfect. So we response problem. We still have back loop. Okay. Let me get after the security push in 2002. My board and I each about 2 weeks sleep because the security push was intense, and then we started looking ways for the effect of what we how this how do we how job we've the question was answered by the final review. But we also started. We also are starting now. Sort of hear the recommendations and text for what we come up. The metrics we came up with based on experience as a commercial shelf vendor, building products. Okay, the constant until I've used these slides. Slide one for a governance. And so what we is to try, okay, got version in the field, we've got version can. How does that compare? How does the version shipping we're shipping one that we're on? So what we'd like is to predict, okay? And the third, somebody, I think it was Dan Gear this morning about unknowns. Okay, vulnerabilities are sort of there. Okay, in the sense that even if you didn't think it, and somebody reports that vulnerability to you, you still have to fix it. We'd like that sort of at the ability. The points on the side, we control the functions, control the ease at some level. Security focus, security risk is unknown. And to deal with after the product, we like to deal with before we ship the product. And there are other considerations there. That's what vulnerability most customers. The fact that the fact that criteria doesn't, about vulnerability is one of the why I about criteria, and customers complain about vulnerabilities in or patch, not an internal tool. So that we came with two sets of measures of security. One was the attack surface. Was developed by Michael Howard, and what he called relative surface. I RAS. Don't know that I ever pronounced it way before. And it meant all the things about the product in its default configuration, and it compares those. It builds a new score based on somewhat arbitrary coefficient, and then compare your current version, the version of development, against a prior. Okay. So, for example, ESP looks really better than XP gold around. The fall was in, and all default XP2. All the open ports aren't open for. And if you look at the think on wood, but sort of slammer, the sort of blaster worms, sort of drop off, and I think because attack has changed. One thing that we, and that published previously, proceedings there, people at Mellon have on it and followed in research. And then the other metric, which I with around the same time, what I call the vulnerability coverage metric. I don't exactly normal name for this, but that really does. And so here, here's the definition on the slide. You have security risk looking at your product. You have a product in the product development, okay, and if a vulnerability is rated, look at the version under development, say, I have gotten one, even if I don't know it, even if the version reported to me before I got the version. And you would have eliminated it, then it counts as good, and if you wouldn't have eliminated it, that counts as bad, and you just do the metric over development version, how many vulnerabilities reported against the version have been eliminated from the new, and a higher percentage eliminated better. And the arithmetic there, I won't even do it with calling math, and this is something I haven't yet published. I talked to one allegedly event, but you're pretty first people to hear about. Okay, so how do we get? Well, I said would have been avoided, and if it's gone easy, not gone, then it's not so straightforward. So what we do is a root analysis for each reported externally vulnerability and a comparison against the project under development and the plan. And the here, the best case, it change eliminates a class of vulnerability. So, for example, went through out all the string handling for vulnerability against Windows 1000 or requires depends on unchecked API. It's not going to read Vista to win. That's a clean. Also, changes. Somebody was something else, eliminate a component or the way it worked, made something else, make it go away. That's not as aesthetically pleasing. Still count. And if the vulnerability throws, if they're in the new version, you want to look to say, still got time, got headroom for my ship. Can I do change this, change coding content, do more functioning, etc., to eliminate? And those are things we do. I mean, we knock down at the beginning of the piece, we're going to go really forward and ship what comes in, part of the feedback. But we don't can change if it's a miss. We always, if a vulnerability is reported again, we always put it before the process in any case. Okay, that count against the break. That just so you have to fix. And the metrics, among other things, are looked at as development to determine whether you're to ship. So with this Vista example, for actual reports information after the screens went out to high-level Windows management, or we do those reports. And this is something that I has gone and has created. So notional, what that means, not dimension, and I'm not going to numbers. Life cycle. Version n, fork that base to n plus 1, and one thing that's against n, also be n 1, because this is in code base. As it goes on, it changes to n plus 1 code base, remove classes of vulnerabilities from it, and then over time, if new classes of vulnerabilities are discovered that a version n, they may also n plus 1. So example, some, I think this is probably an example. The use of using for security access device after Office 2003, a major set of Office facilities reported through the 18 years. Obviously, was a part of the cycle for Office 2007 or Office 2003 Pack 3. So we hope we knocked these down. Certainly, we were metric Office as part of the development cycle. So, experience using a version of the surface metric and use the coverage on an ongoing basis for current Microsoft product list there. The baseline SD requirement pretty active in case of they more than the SD requires, and that's active. In a few, we did make changes in response to vulnerabilities that identify new classes of problems. Yeah, well, so just brag slide. What we said, the slide goes first year after is on the left and Vista right, taking from the NV database, the database, with vulnerabilities and rated against product but fixed for XP and Vista, not reflecting severity. I think that also gets severity rate, but we haven't into that analysis yet. We use this first and it came up with Windows Server 2003 as a way of seeing how in the field. Again, sort of what matters to is once we have the product, and we're pretty pleased with the way that Windows Vista has gone. Would again. More experience let's see, Chris's IS6, I think probably data. This is first year data for IS because I knew that IS5 had more than vulnerability in any early that I can think, although it sort of dropped after about 2003, 2004, been pretty since. 6 has been good. 6, the gold SP2 last year, I think, and C server up to Pack 3, and SQL Server has had a very lean run over the 5 years. Pack 3. So this does work. Let me talk about other things to measure. The coverage metric, you don't have an outside vulnerability researcher community. You're it's sort of usable. So there may be ways to simulate, be able to simulate with external integration testing. I'm not sure it would work. Something you'd want to send to develop rather than doing a snapshot, doing it as a snapshot at the end. And so I'm not sure how it would work. We're fortunate enough to have a big external vulnerability community looking at Office, other major products, and gives us the ability to use this. I mean, it's not when they find it's a good thing. When they look, at least we know what we're doing. That apply to existing tool process are also valuable. And actually, we do things too. We look at bugs to be found and fixed at genetic analysis to see found and so on. But that's reference to the tool. Those are known on okay. If you run a tool and you run it, it will bugs it fine, and you fix it not. There's some new vulnerability or something you haven't thought. You're not it by measuring against a tool. The external don't our process, and if they're still seeing for vulnerabilities, okay, they know they may invent a different fuzzing or find a new claim back. Obviously, a complementary. We have tools. We measure effectiveness. We measure the use of tools and the fix of the vulnerabilities that they find. But the coverage sort of uncontrolled test, and so that adds a different dimension. All wrapped up. I'm running a little bit. I think it's only me in the pub crawl. That's okay. I flip this into my presentations when I'm talking to people about development. Microsoft has done to try to I don't need this to you, but other groups have security too, and so it's think about security for other developments. So a way of thing that we useful project the vulnerability. It uses the research community as an validation, and we get more software out of it. Being software, and you apply this, it's something we've had good experience with I encourage you about how you might do that and try it. At some point, it's here, I'll write a paper on it for something. At least you know what's in the. So I'm way early. If I believed I was being a slot like other sessions, still a bit. I'll take questions.
So you said that these metrics n versus plus 1, and then you have some of these showing like a 50% reduction approximately. But you like an n versus n plus 1 comparison. Not only are you improving your development research or improving their capability in terms of time. So for the older product, maybe technically evolved to where found twice as many capabilities in your products as would in your. So there being 50%, it's a 50% absolute, but maybe made a much significant because now you're getting a class of as well. I complicated, but
I think I know what you're saying. I'm not how to factor that in a quantitative way. Once we've shipped, locked down the product that's there, with the automating, we get better. We get take of and of service, which is a good thing for customers. So we can't, we pretty change this pack to the point when, it breaks actions and won't apply. But I mean, what you're saying is, actually, again, the target we're aiming at may be doing, but the attack get worse. But that's part of the unknown. I mean, we have to factor that in. We're metric, the average metric, Windows Vista wasn't just 50% when we. It was a lot more than that. Okay, and what and what people, of course, adapt for the thing that we can find and talk about, content to stay. So we're well beyond 50% margin to 50% field. To Kentucky, I mean that there's no algorithm for how high you have. We could get to 100, be thrilled. Likely. Other